James Johnston has had over 14 million streams of his songs thus far on streaming platforms, which is a number I can hardly get my brain around. And that's only with 4 singles. James, hello. Great to talk to you again.
It is good to be back. Thanks for having me.
And I'm going to get to talk about those millions of streams because, again, it just blows my mind. I'm going to start, though, by saying you have a fairly new son. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I do. He's been good. He's finally settled down. The first month and a half was, I thought being a musician on the road and all the other things I've done were difficult. The first steps of being a new parent, it's a whole new ball game. But no, he's doing well.
But am I right in saying that he was born on Christmas Day?
He was Christmas Day, baby. Yep.
And I know that because I saw you play a few things in Tamworth here and there, and that's where you mentioned it. And one, I think it was at the Maton Showcase that you mentioned that. And so you were at the Maton Showcase. I saw you at the 50th anniversary concert. You popped up and did a song with Melanie Dyer, and they're just the ones I saw. So I'm wondering what else you got up to at the festival, and if you had a good festival.
To be honest, it was great. I just kind of, I feel like I just kind of rolled into town and I got to do lots of little bits and pieces. I didn't put on my own show, so I guess I was just jumping up here and there. I played at the Golden Guitars, which was great. Right. And I jumped up at Lee Kernaghan's festival, did a little song with Lee, which was great. And it was just really enjoyable because for me, I used to go there every year to Tamworth. It was where I used to go with the family, and it was this really special time because we'd all travel over. We'd stay in some old cabin. You know what Tamworth's like. It's almost impossible to get accommodation. So we stayed in some really unique places. There's one story I have to tell you. We got there and it was a little shack. And that's the best way I describe it. It was a shack about 30 minutes out of town. And we opened up the door and I swear that this hadn't been open, at least since the last Tamworth. It felt like it hadn't been open for 10 years. But the best way to describe it was in the curtain rod was a possum curled up. Inside was curled up a possum on the inside, and I opened the toilet up and there was 2 giant green tree frogs sitting either side of the toilet, and I was like, this is great. It doesn't get any more Australian than that.
And you disrupted their happy home. How dare you? They'd been roosting there for a year.
I know. I almost felt bad. I'm like, sorry guys, we're going to kind of interrupt this for the next week, but after that you're welcome to come back.
Yeah. And that's right. I did see you play at the Golden Guitars as well, but because the Golden Guitars sort of rolled into the 50th concert, I was thinking, did I see James at both? But yes, so that was a big, probably 12 hours or thereabouts. But fantastic events for you to be part of, particularly because you've just released your new singles, but I think you've already really established a presence in Australian country music. Were you being recognised as you went around town?
Yeah, it was great. I got to be honest with you. Like, it certainly felt there was there was just a great energy, but from both sides, from the industry that I felt really supported. I got so much encouragement. Like, they're honestly, as a new guy in the scene, that's quite often, and I, because I haven't done the traditional route through country, I haven't won something like the Star Maker and gone through the traditional route. In that sense, I have kind of come a bit left wing of, kind of come out of nowhere from a different angle into the industry. It's often unknown, if I'll kind of be accepted. But honestly, I just got a lot of positivity. A lot of people kind of pat me on the back saying, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing well. And from the fan side of things, it was fantastic. Like, we played, I played at Fan Zone stage, and there was just a really great crowd, and it was there for a good kind of hour, just signing and saying hello to people. So there was a really great energy. So I, certainly felt the love. It was a good experience.
Now, you say you're a new guy on the scene, but on your Instagram, I saw you posted a video of yourself at 10, busking on the streets of Taree, about to go to Tamworth. Yeah. And were you busking at that age?
Yeah, 100%. Every week. I used to, it was every week. That was my my pocket money, that's how I used to. And I have to say, definitely, if you're, you make better money as a 4-year-old. As I saw, every year that I got older, I made less and less money. That was the truth of it. With as a 4 or 5 or 6-year-old with big cowboy hat and cowboy boots, that's great. If you want to get your kids into making a good little living, go and do that. As you got older at 10 and 12 and everything, finally you hit 16 and nobody gives you any money. So you gotta capitalize when you're young.
So when you were 4 busking, did you have a parent sitting there going, not again? He's got to sit here through these songs again? Or were your parents very supportive?
My parents were pretty amazing, to be honest. They always said they kept me fueled with Powerade. Powerade was, as long as James had a Powerade, he could sing for the whole day, no problem. But then I'd kind of have these low moments. I'd start to get tired, and I'd come out with a red Powerade back into it. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but my parents were very supportive. They would always just stay there and support me. A funny story though, when I was on the streets of Tamworth, my dad, well, he's not very good at it, but he loves it. Bush poultry, right? So I have to say, what used to happen is I used to go to the streets of Tamworth and I used to busk, and I would play for an hour, and then Dad would get up. He said, "Oh, well, I'm gonna keep the crowd entertained," and he'll tell the same story. And he started doing the bush poultry, and we'd get a really good crowd around. And unfortunately, Dad would generally clear the crowd with his bush poultry.
Well, no wonder you had to be given Powerade, because you had to get them back. You had to ramp up them back.
I had to come back with lots of energy. So yeah, no, I always kind of started busking around my hometown at probably 6 or 7 years old. I was really young, and I didn't stop until I was about 16. From that moment, I was out on the streets of Tamworth busking. Busking was just something that I did for a really long time.
And the clip I saw when you were 10, you were holding a guitar that looked quite a bit too big for you. And I was thinking, I wondered if you ever had a kiddie-sized guitar, or you always just went straight for the adult guitar.
I was pretty little, so that probably was a kid-sized guitar, let's be honest. I was pretty small for my age. Everyone used to think I was 8 when I was 12, and everyone used to think I was 12 when I was 16. So it was probably a kid's guitar, and I just, just looked like a short ass. So.
Well, you were very proficient at it. I was thinking, God, he's better at 10 than I am now. And also your voice was really strong. So I was wondering, by that age, well, now you said you were busking since you were 4, but you mentioned in the clip, I think you were listening to Garth Brooks and Lee Kernaghan in the car and singing along. But yeah, to develop that control of tone that you had as a 10-year-old, you must have done a lot of practice.
I just used to sing constantly. It was just what I did. And still to this day, nothing's changed. I've just always loved it. I truly, I think I'm one of those very few lucky people in the world that have just known since 4 years old, what would I answer? What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a country music singer. That's what it's always been. I'd walk down to the bus stop. We used to have about a half a K walk to the bus stop. And I used to wake up all my neighbors, because every morning I'd be singing at the top of my lungs all the way to the bus stop. When I get home, singing all the way home. I just was always singing. I used to get in trouble at school because I'd be singing to myself when I was doing my work in classroom and everything. I just always sang. And it wasn't like I went out and specifically got lessons and all that sort of stuff. I did a little bit of that, but I think it was just in the blood, and I just loved it.
Now, as I mentioned, that clip was taken in Taree, which is in New South Wales. You now live in Queensland. So, of course, the burning question is, who do you support in state of origin?
Oh, New South Wales. You've got to go back to your home, and I still say, if people ask me where's my home, I still say Wingham, my little hometown. I think that'll be the answer for the rest of my life. I'm still a New South Wales boy visiting Queensland.
Well, that's exactly the right way to think of it. Now, the latest single is Country Boys, and it's a companion piece of sorts to Raised Like That, and both songs pay tribute to your upbringing. As you said, you grew up in Wingham. So I'm wondering what sort of country boy you were like. What did you get up to?
It was the song. There's lines in the song that pretty much capture how I used to spend my weekends. It was dirt bikes on weekend. I was a mad dirt bike rider. That's it was, if it wasn't music, it was dirt bikes. And pretty much we'd go out every weekend. I'd go out with my mates into the bush, and we'd just go and get lost, and we'd come back at night, hopefully with nothing broken or something. And, I used to race motorbikes my whole life. So it was a lot of that sort of stuff. And then quite often on the weekends, after we'd go for a dirt bike ride, we'd come back and we'd set up a fire, and, just my mates and I would kick around the fire and do all the stupid things that 15, 16, 17-year-old boys do. And that was just life. It was kind of that small town life, right? You make your own fun. And I also there's a line in the song that said, spending summers swimming in the creek. And at the back of my property, we had 100 acres. And at the back of my property, by the way, I always say that I have 100 acres. I had 40 acres up until I was about the age of 10, because Raised Like That says raised up on 40 acres. I was until about the age of 10. And then we bought the next door neighbor's property up until I was about 18. And at the back of the property, there was this beautiful little creek. And we used to just go spending the summers down in the creek, hanging out. There was a rope swing down there. And, that was life.
Now, you mentioned making your own fun, and I think that's actually a key point in terms of your development as a musician as well, because that what you've just described, singing from the age of 4, performing, that sort of thing, you were essentially making your own fun as a young musician, and that's been critical to bring you to the point where you are now. And I do sometimes wonder, with so many distractions for kids, and you have a father, you're a father, you have 2 children, whether that's on your mind as a parent, thinking, well, you know, I got such a lot out of just making my own fun. And as a musician, I got a lot of benefit out of tinkering, practicing, making mistakes, which is part of it. Does that weigh on your thinking when you're looking at your kids?
100%. I think we have access to distractions constantly now, so easily. You know, you look at a phone, or you look at a laptop, or there's YouTube. There's a constant way to keep you distracted from actually doing something else. It's like I think new parent will say the same thing, that it's a challenge, like towing that line with kids. You know, that's something that it does worry me. It's something that we actively try and work on. Be like, hey, this is a no technology time. Go out there and just make your own fun. But it is different, and I think kids are developing different with even how quick they're accessing information. You know, it's that constant reward. You know, with social media and YouTube, even what they watch is different to what I watch. You know, it was a lot more slower. You know, when we used to watch cartoons, I feel like they were a lot slower. Now it's just boom, 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 and I struggle to watch it, you know, and I still feel like I'm a young guy, but I struggle to watch some of that because it's just too intense. So yes, I do think it's changing a lot, and it is something that worries me.
And of course, the musical instrument is a great way to offset it, I think, because it's so all encompassing and all absorbing when you're trying to learn something. So that's more a comment than a question. But Country Boys, at the time of its release, there were 14 million streams for your first 3 singles. And so I imagine you possibly even passed 15 million now. Do you ever stop and think, wow, that is a lot of people?
You know what? It's hard to translate a number like that into something that's kind of tangible. Funnily enough, a friend of mine the other day sent me a photo of Kenny Chesney playing in a stadium, and he said, your monthly listeners would fill this stadium twice. And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool, isn't it? You know, and it was a real visual like representation of that. I find what's been really exciting, I played last weekend, time gets away from me. Yes, last weekend in Berry. And what was really exciting was I saw that really translate, like those numbers really translate to people coming to the gig. You know, when I jumped up on stage and it was kind of empty when I started, and as soon as I started playing Raise Like That, this just crowd came, and we ended up having thousands of people in front of me, and it was just this amazing energy. And everyone was just singing the song back to me, and I was like, I was up on stage just being like, wow, that was really a moment for me where I just said, this is incredible what's happened in the last 10 months. It's only been 10 months since I put that song out, and to have a whole crowd of thousands of people in front of me singing my song back to me, it was like the best feeling I've ever had. It was incredible.
But of course, the last time we spoke, I certainly got a sense of how you've arrived at this point, which is that you basically put in the work. You said you were busking until you were 16, but after that point, you actually were getting in a car, driving around Australia, playing pubs, like whoever would give you a gig to whomever would turn up. And that hard work, I guess, of just showing up, sticking with it has paid off, because it seems to me you've honed a sense of how to connect with an audience regardless of who is there. And as I said, I saw you in Tamworth play in a few different environments on your own with an acoustic guitar, with a band. And I really got the sense that for you, each performance has equal weight. It doesn't matter what the setup is, who's in front of you. It could have been 10 people, or the people full in the Trek, or, you know, that showground at Berry. For you, it's all the same. Every audience member is valuable. Every audience is worth the same regardless of what it is. Is that true to say? 100%. And that statement is something that's been, you know, you've asked anybody of the old hats in the music industry and they'll say, you know, treat every performance like it's your last one. And I believe that so wholeheartedly. I spent years playing in empty pubs, and when I'm in empty pubs, the amount of times that I've just played to the bar staff, I like hundreds of times, you know, like truly hundreds of times that I've played. I remember, I think I counted in like 2016, I'd played something like 1,500 shows. So I don't know how many shows it is now, but
I was doing 7 nights a week, eight gigs a week sometimes for years. And I played a lot of shows. I played hundreds of shows to empty bar staff. And to now have moments where, you know, to have those moments like Barry, like that just means so much to me. But at the same time, I also appreciate that one person that's come to my gig and has bought a ticket. That means something, you know, and that's valuable. And they have every right to have as good a show as if I was standing in front of a couple of thousand people. And yeah, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. And I also just love it. The flip side of that is that I don't have to fake that feeling of going up there and just wanting to play and give it my best. I love that feeling. You know, I just like hopping up on stage. I sit here by myself in my room, play guitar and write songs, and I love it. I love just playing to myself, you know, so anything above that is just a benefit, it really is.
But do you think you're also committed to being an entertainer? Because I certainly got that sense seeing you in Tamworth.
Yeah, for that, I'm really thankful of just the years kind of cutting my teeth. I was, as well as playing pubs, I was also in like a big corporate band for many years, playing funk music of all things. And we traveled around the world, funnily enough. Like before I decided to go all in on country music, the year before that, I think we'd been to like 8 countries around the world playing at some of these incredible events. And it was a big 8-piece band. And I was the front guy of this 8-piece band, right? And I had to just perform. And you have to be an entertainer. You have to capture the crowd. And I learned a lot through that process of being, you know, in front of a couple of thousand people with a big band, and you have to just kind of command the band. You also have to command the audience. You got to really just own that space. And I'm really thankful of that time doing all of that sort of stuff, because it did teach me a lot of the skills on how to, you know, be up on stage and how to be an entertainer. And I also always looked up to great entertainers. I loved Garth Brooks. Like I would watch Garth Brooks concerts on repeat because I truly think he's one of the best entertainers in the world. I'd watch Michael Bublé, funnily enough. You know, like I thought Michael Bublé has this sense of commanding an audience, and his own presence is just second to none. So I've always really gravitated towards great entertainers, and I really always watched and studied great entertainers. And I think that's very much where I aspire to be. I'd like to think that, you know, one day somebody would see me in that sort of light.
And I ask these questions because some people might look at the singles that have come out and think, oh, how do you get to that many millions of streams? So I think this is the answer, for me at least, having interviewed a lot of artists over the years. It never comes from nowhere. It's not like you just suddenly pitched up with one single one day and everyone went, oh, that guy's great. It's years of work. I didn't know about that funk band, for example. That's new information. It's like,
not many people do.
It's like another, you know, a piece to my understanding of how you get to be that really strong presence on stage. Because you did walk out with an acoustic guitar at that Maiden showcase, and everyone sort of sat up a little straighter. And I think it was because you arrived on stage and you were really comfortable, and it really puts the audience at ease. And I think that's part of that entertainment background. Yeah,
like the one thing that I always say, and it was like really drilled into me by a couple of people that I really respect in the industry before I released any songs, is that all of that is great, and all of that allows you to kind of continue on and to grow as an artist. But like the songs come number one, you know, focus on being a songwriter. And that was the big thing that held me up to not coming out sooner. That truly was, you know, it's the year before I released, I wrote, I think I may have mentioned this last time, but I wrote nearly 250 songs that year before I released Raised Like That. And before that, I'd written hundreds of songs. You know, there is probably 500 songs in my back catalogue before Raised Like That, because I always believe that, you know, get the song, focus on the song, learn the craft of songwriting. Because I think a lot of people have a sense that songs just come out and it's like this moment of inspiration. Yes, it is. But it's like any great skill, you know, if you know, you want to carve the statue of David, it wasn't the first statue that he ever carved. You know what I mean? He'd gone through and he chipped away with a little chisel as a kid, and he worked at until he finally had this thing where he has all of the toolbox full of all these tools that he can sculpt this amazing thing. Same thing with songwriting. You know, it's understanding the tools that you have at your disposal. So when that moment of inspiration comes, you know, you can access all of those tools and present it in the best way that you can at that moment, you know. And it's constantly evolving. I feel like I'm constantly working it to try and be a better songwriter, but it's just at that moment, it's just about getting new tools to be able to, like, you know, present your inspiration in a better way.
And partly what I find so interesting about the songs you have released is that much as you consciously worked your way towards this point in terms of discarding hundreds of songs, the songs you've chosen to release have a really interesting balance, which is that they are upbeat, party songs, for lack of a better term. And by that, I mean, they are the sorts of songs that people would put on a party soundtrack, but they are really meaningful. So the lyrics aren't empty. It's the way you've constructed them musically, I guess, is the party element. And so I imagine that too was a conscious choice about which songs you were putting out and in which order.
Very much so. And the big one comes back to, and I've got so many songs that I'm really excited to put out that will probably be album songs that I am super passionate about, that I think I'm really proud of. But 100% there was a conscious decision because of the thing I said before about being an entertainer. I love Garth Brooks. I love those guys, right? I love like Lee Kennedy up on stage. And I want to be the entertainer. I didn't want to be the opening act. I wanted to come out and I want to be the headliner that just puts on a hell of a party show. And I knew that if I wanted to be that, I had to put out music that would be able to be played at that time slot, that would be able to fit into that thing. So for me, it was very much a conscious decision that I wanted to put music out that would put me as the big party guy that gets everyone going. And as my career keeps going, and I'm only just day one of this, I'm excited about lots of other songs that I've got behind the scenes that are going to probably tell a bit of a different story, that it might be a bit slower. But out of the gate, I wanted to put out a few songs that were kind of big songs.
And I think it's great too to say I want to be the headliner, because I think in the arts and in any creative industry, there can be a tendency to say, oh, I just want to do the best I can. I want to work my way up. I think to have ambition is wonderful, and then to actually back it up with the work to go there, because that's the other thing that can happen. Ambition can be stated just as an empty thing. It's like, I want that, or I deserve to be that. But you've actually said, that's what I'm aiming for, because that's the sort of work I want to do, is my impression really for you. It's actually about the sort of work you want to do rather than an ego statement of I'm the headliner.
100%. And it came down to when I released, I actually wrote down a lot of things being like, who do I want to be? Why am I doing this? Why do I leave this, even the other music side? Why did I leave that security? Because the band was doing well, the corp band, we had all these things going on. Why do I leave all this? And the thing was, there was a couple of main ones. One, I want a piece of that style of like big show where people come to me and I put on a big show, like that level of refinement, I guess it would call. There's something about really working and spending days thinking about a show and crafting a show, and when does this song come in and when does this moment come in? And I sit here for weeks sometimes doing that, just imagining how that show is going to be presented. The other side is that I want to tell my story. I spent years playing covers, and I felt like nobody knew me. They would say, oh, you're a good singer, but nobody knew who I was. And it was very much a decision that I want to tell my story and get people to know who I am as a person.
Well, I think we are definitely finding out who you are through these songs. I'm excited to hear that there are some other songs coming, and you mentioned album. That's always a lovely word to hear, as far as I'm concerned. James, congratulations on all this success thus far. I'm sure it is actually just the start of many more millions of streams, and people should absolutely go and see you live, because, as I said, whichever environment you were in, you owned it. It was great.
Awesome.
And it was lovely to talk to you again.
Lovely to talk to you too. It's great to be back on, and I'm sure we'll do it again soon.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. See ya.